Hi guys, welcome back to Forgetful Scholar, and this week I'm chatting about one book, but I'm chatting about a book. It's not a book tag this time, so you know. And believe it or not, it's a romantasy. I know a romantasy. Who is she? What's going on? I have no idea, and I loved it. Insanity. I have been gone for a bit because I went on a road trip. I'm a horrible YouTuber because I didn't really get anything. I didn't vlog at all. I went with my friends and we went to a Matt Dinniman signing, which I had a great time. He seems like a really chill dude. And then the next day we had lunch with some wonderful people we met there, and then we went to medieval times, and then we drove straight back. So like, I honestly thought I would need to fill in time to like, and I brought with me like 3 books, you know, just in case. We were all entertained the whole time. I had a blast. I hope they had a blast. And you know what? I didn't even think to bring out my phone. So I think I got some pictures at the signing. I don't know, maybe. Anyway, so I had a great time being unplugged and everything. But that also means I only read one book. Yes, it is a romantasy. At least that's what the category is. So it is Paladin's Grace, The Saint of Steel Book 1 by Kingfisher. It's published 2020 and it has 366 pages. This was classified as a romantasy. I had so much fun. Like literally 5 stars. I know, I'm surprised too. I've been wanting to read a Kingfisher for a while, but like where I have, oh wow, brain fog. Wow, did you guys? My brain completely collapsed on itself. So where I have heard of Kingfisher more is the horror girlies, and I'm not a horror fan in book form. So I was like, oh, you know, they always get all these accolades and stuff, but I'm just not into horror books. And then someone mentioned that they have a few fantasy books, and I was like, oh, I'm trying out some more fantasy. Huh. The writing is spectacular. Like, it is so wonderful. It is a book that you completely fall into, and it doesn't feel pretentious or anything like that. And there are surprisingly funny moments in this, and the funny moments are between like the friends. It's not slapstick or anything like that. So the general gist is there's 2 main characters. Grace, who is a perfumer, who's someone who creates perfumes, and this is like D&D kind of esque world. So this is like medieval fantasy world. So it's medieval times, but there's like magic and gnolls, which are non-human but humanoid. I always in my head like kind of rat / dog people. I don't know if that's accurate. It's always how I pictured them. Or am I thinking about goblins? Might be thinking about goblins. Anyway, but I don't think you need to know about Dungeons and Dragons to enjoy this book. I think the world building was spectacular. You understood what was happening. And Grace is a perfumer who is a perfect example of someone who is hyper fixated on one thing and then the rest of their life is just in shambles. And I love her. She is 100% put into like my top 20 best female characters. I love her. She is such a freaking mess outside of like perfumes and scents and everything like that. And her backstory, obviously tragic. She is a wonderful case of a very strong independent, even through necessity. Not like it's not her natural state. She had to do that to survive, yet not being a bee. You know, it's wonderful. And then Paladin Stefan as the other main character. I love him. He's a little cinnamon roll wrapped up in like a deadly warrior. It's lovely. And this was a great, and also he went into my top 20 favorite male characters. And this book was fantastic in letting you know that he is an absolute lawful good, an absolute good guy, but he's not boring. You know, like the book from Lana Harper, Thistle Grove, The Witches of Thistle Grove. One of their books, Rowan, he's supposed to be a good guy, but he came off really boring. Stefan does not come off boring at all. So we start off, Stefan is a paladin, and a paladin is a religious warrior. So it's not so much like Templars, it's more like they are in the army and then a god chooses them and they become a holy warrior for them with certain abilities. Like sometimes paladins can heal, sometimes they can't, like certain abilities from their god, right? So Stefan was god touched by the god Saint of Steel, and his order are basically berserker paladins. They're not really healing paladins, they're berserkers. So Saint gave them the ability to be berserker fighters, but the Saint would guide them to not hurt innocents, just to hurt the enemy, right? And Saint, the god, was killed. And it's such a fascinating kind of concept, like, oh yeah, you're a paladin that got abilities from your god, and now your god's dead. What are you gonna do? Like, it was so good. It had me hooked. Like, it really did, because I was like, oh yeah, like, you know, and now, and I was like, oh, are they no longer going to be berserkers? No, they're still berserkers, but now there's no one to like guide it. And all of them, and they call it the Tide, right? And there's only 7 left. And this was a relatively big order. They had a few temples scattered around the countries. So only 7 of them survived their god dying, because everybody else went into a berserker rage, or what they called the Tide, or they ended themselves, things like that. So there's 7 of them, 5 males and 2 females. And they are fascinating. So they still get, the Tide still happens. So they end up in the Temple of the Rat, and this religious order basically is like the district attorney's office. They believe in the rule of law and that everyone has a right to defend themselves in a trial, fair trial. They have healers. They don't have warriors themselves. They don't have paladins. They just have like healers, priests, and lawyers, right? So they help anybody who's in need, and they're really sweet. And the bishop, Bear Tongue, I love her. She's phenomenal. She is in charge, and some of the funniest moments are with her interacting with the paladins. And like I said, there was really a lot of funny moments, but it wasn't slapstick. It was just in conversations, and it was so wonderful. I can't even describe. Okay, so Stefan is, they use the paladins to like protect their healers when they go into the ghetto, or to court, to protect the person they're defending from getting like intimidated by, usually it's the people, the Order of the Motherhood, the Hanged Motherhood, and they're a-holes. We do not like them, okay? They're not good guys. They're not good people. So at first I was like, okay. I thought it was a little slow, because it opens up with Paladin Steven losing their god dies, and then 3 years later, you know, and the paladins are really indebted to the rat, and they're loyal to the rat because they helped them, right? And Steven is guarding a doctor because there's someone beheading people in the ghetto, and the bishop's like, yeah, go protect our doctors, you know. And Paladin Steven's like, there's a man chopping off heads, what, you know, and they're like, we gotta help the people, so just keep them safe, right? So I thought that was a little slow, but looking back on it, it wasn't. There was a lot of information you get in that chapters that really come into play later on. So I was really happy about that, because you guys know I don't like plot holes, you know, or unnecessary scenes. Like, this is 350 pages and everything, and I didn't feel like it needed to be longer. It was perfect, you know, because sometimes you see those romanticides and they're like 1,000 pages, and you're like, really? Did it really have to be that long? Could you not have told this story faster, better? Every single scene in that book is necessary, you know? So that was great. Every scene in this book was necessary. It was lovely. And Stephen kind of has a sense of humor, even though he is a paladin and, you know, lawful good. They would never break the law, things like that. And there's a little meet cute because Grace is a perfumer and she was picking flowers for her perfume. And the Motherhood thought she was trespassing and they were going to arrest her and probably execute her without trial. Again, they're not good guys. The rats are always fighting against them. And in this book, the rats, good guys, okay? So she runs into it. She's like, oh, a paladin. And she's like, he'll help me because he's a paladin, you know? So she runs to him. She's like, hide me. So they kind of do the whole fake making out. So no one suspects. And the whole time he's like, I'm so sorry, madam. And then he says something wrong. She's like, my apologies, madam. And you know, like it's such a funny moment because it's so awkward and they're both so awkward. And you're reading this and you're like, oh, look at this, two socially inept people meet. It's adorable. He walks her home because again, a madman is cutting off heads. And this is like the third time in as many chapters that he's thinking, is no one taking this madman seriously but me, you know? So he walks her home and he's kind of has a crush. But he's worried because of the tide, because the berserker rage can take over whenever. And this is one of my favorite moments because the friendships in this book are great. And I love the friendships between the paladins. And I like that the paladins all had unique personalities. They weren't just cut and paste, you know, they were people. And Paladin, Stephen's talking to his friend and the one that seems to hand out assignments. I cannot pronounce his name. It's like Isvanar or something. I know. It's gonna be in trouble because that paladin is the main character in the next book, so we'll see what happens. And he's like, and he's like, oh, you're in a better mood. And Paladin Stephen's like, oh, well, you know, I've met a pretty girl. And he's like, ah, go for it, man. And he's like, no, I'm paraphrasing because it was so much better in the book. I'm paraphrasing. And he's like, no, I can't, you know, I can't. And he's like, bro, erectile dysfunction, bro? Oh no. And he's like, no. The tide. He's like, oh, okay. Like, I don't know, for some reason the interaction had me laughing so hard. Like, it's not that a berserker rage can overtake you, could hurt her, and that's the problem. He's like, no, the horror of the equipment downstairs not working was worse to this paladin than like death and murder. And I found that so boy. Like, you know, I found that so like male brain that I couldn't stop laughing. And you know, the whole time, and then I don't want to give too much away because it really is wonderful. There's a lot of political intrigue, a foiled assassin attempt. They try to blame him and he's like, a paladin, bro. And they're like, oh yeah, paladin, okay. So there is, even though they're considered berserker paladins and like a little bit crazy, there's still, being a paladin has a huge weight, right? So like, oh, obviously you don't send a paladin to a suit, like an assassination to assassination. What is wrong with me today? Anyway, geez, brain, get it together. Okay. There's a whole assassination plot, and the thing about the assassination plot, I totally knew who was behind it the whole time. But you guys know I read a lot of mysteries. That's not a surprise. It was just the story beats. I got it. And the characterization, I was like, I got it. But it was fun still seeing all that unravel. The third act had me on the edge of my seat. I loved every second of it, okay? And again, weird funny moments. So Paladin Stephen really likes her, but he's trying not to because he's afraid of the berserker rage. And when the berserker rage happens, I was like, yes! Because I was very happy who he let loose on. And then he found her again in the berserker rage, and he didn't hurt her. He destroyed furniture, but he didn't hurt her. And I was like, oh, that's sweet. And what I really love about him, about Stefan, Paladin Stefan, is that he knits. He knits, like when he's bored, he just knits. He knits sweaters, he knits socks, and he's like, and someone's like, why do you knit socks? And he's like, everybody needs good warm socks, especially soldiers. And like all his paladin friends are like, ooh, you make a new sock, bro? They're like, ooh, new sock. Ah, it's pink. Ah, okay. You know, and I was like, man, yeah, now thinking about it, socks must be like a luxury in a medieval fantasy world. You don't really think about it, but I'm like, oh, yeah. I just love that. I love that when he's bored, he just like knits. Kind of made me think of, have you ever seen that movie from the 80s, Demolition Man? If you haven't, go see it. It is a hoot. Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes, phenomenal. But Sylvester Stallone was frozen as a judicial punishment and defrosted, and everyone who's defrosted gets input like a hobby, like a useful hobby for a rehab, and like to help him cope in society, and his was knitting. So he always has the urge to knit, and he's like, why do I want to knit? Which was, it just made me think of that, Baby Sandra Bullock, baby Benjamin Bratt, yeah, go watch it. It's fun. Anyway, back to the book. And at one point I was like, wait, what happened? Yeah, okay, someone tried to kill the crown prince, but what happened to the maniac that's cutting off heads? Because obviously it's not the same thing. And then literally the next paragraph, he's like, am I the only one worried about this head chopping maniac? And I was like, oh good, he heard me. That was my thoughts to this completely imaginary person. Oh good, he heard me. The thing, the third act conflict was so great with who the assassinator, I mean I knew who it was, but how that worked out. I love that the tide, we did see what happens with the tide, and she's like, yeah, you really destroyed that water barrel, and he's like, it deserved it. I'm sure it deserved it. Like just funny things like that. Bishop Beartongue, Bishop of the Rat Temple, and the banter between her and all the paladins, phenomenal. I loved at the end, all the paladins were like, I must be punished. This situation was my fault. Even the most tangential, like loose connection. And she just looks at Grace like, see what I have to deal with? Paladins, and it's so cute. I love how it ended because she doesn't want to leave her perfume shop, and he can't abandon his brothers and sisters. And she's like, well, we live in the same town. He's like, oh, that's true. It's only a couple blocks away. So I'm kind of happy that the ending wasn't them like getting married or anything, because they just kind of met, but it was them like in the modern world would be like, oh yeah, we should totally date. Yeah, you totally should. That'd be great. Like I was saying, the assassination plot, loved how that worked out. That was very satisfying. Okay. The head chopping maniac, that was really interesting. Really interesting. And it kind of had an ending, but it also seems like that might be an overarching plot in the books, and I'm here for it because turns out like there is someone kind of pulling the strings, and we don't know who that is. So like, ooh, so I'm really enjoying that. I had a blast, and I can't believe I really loved a romantasy. That is insane to me. But I did, and I guess, I'm a fan of T. Kingfisher now. Like, got on the bandwagon. People have been saying for years how great they are. Yeah, I had a great time. It was a fast read. It just sucks you in, and I really loved the light sprinkling of just banter that you could tell are between friends, and it was funny. I mean, I thought it was funny. Of course, humor's subjective, blah, 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 blah. But anyway, that's it for me this week. Did you notice I got super hyper by the end? What is going on with me today? I'm pretty sure I have a cold or a sinus infection, and I don't know why I'm acting like this, but here we go. Anyway, I'm gonna go because I'm just rambling. I don't want to, but it's time for me to get back to the real world. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bye.